virtual, so we're not going to do introduction. So I'm going to jump right into approval of meeting minutes. So please take a couple of minutes to go through the minutes, and then we'll take a vote. Thank you. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Thank you, Sam.
Who is that?
Sam
Sam from
from the City
Vista.
Vista.
Thank you.
I'll
Blake
second,
from Encinitas, second.
second that.
Okay, so who's the second? I heard
Zubir.
two.
Zubir. No, take the other guy.
That's Abe, I think.
Okay, Steve is good.
Hold on, sorry. So Encinitas is here and they second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So unless we have any questions.
Let me take roll and starting with Caltrans.
Melina Pereira's here.
Hi, are you approving minutes, Melina?
No, I was just going to be listening in on the CMCP. That's it.
Oh, but you are the alternate, so you can approve minutes if you like.
Okay.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't see Raj, so
Ellison,
Yes.
This is Hamid Bahadari, Oceanside. May I make a suggestion?
Yes.
This is something the last time that we had the California Traffic Control Devices Committee meeting we did when we did it online. Rather than going member by member, we just said that any voting member that is voting no or abstaining, let us know, otherwise it's considered yes.
Understood, Hamid. We're using this to actually take roll call as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but your point's taken. Thank you. All right, Chula Vista. Paul, you there? Del Mar is not here. El Cajon.
Yes, Mario Sanchez here, and I approved the meeting minutes, so
Thank
yes.
you. Escondido.
Nicole Carwatsalainen and City of Escondido, and yes for the minutes.
Thank you. Imperial Beach.
Hey, Ellison, Jason Stack, Imperial Beach, and approved meeting minutes.
Thank you. La Mesa.
Mike Kennard, here, vote approved minutes.
Thank you. Lemon Grove. Did Mike James show up from El Cajon, from Lemon Grove? I do not see him here. Not yet, at least. All right, we'll skip Lemon Grove. Come back to Chula Vista.
Hi, Paul Rivard, Chula Vista. Yes, I approve the minutes. Sorry, I had a connection interruption.
No problem, thank you. National City?
Yeah, if you look at the PLS in National City, and I approve the meeting minutes.
Thank you. Hamid, Oceanside.
Hi, yes, this is Hamid. I had to leave the last meeting early. Tila, our alternate, is online also, and she's gonna vote since she sat through the whole thing.
All right, let me unmute Tila. If it'll allow me to. I can't promote her since she's just on the phone. Or she can chat and let me know.
Well, she's saying okay, if you can bring her on.
Yeah. Oh, she approves. Thank you. Oceanside, Poway. Melody. Okay. I thought I saw Melody maybe. So Melody is not here. Thank you for your patience, everyone. So Maureen or Claudia? Anyone want to approve minutes for San Diego?
Duncan Hughes, City of San Diego. I approve the minutes.
Thank you, Duncan. Didn't see you there. Let's see. Vice Chair, Santee.
Approve.
Thank you. Did Solana Beach show up?
Solana Beach is here. This is Jim Greenstein, Solana Beach, and I vote to approve the meeting minutes.
Thank you. Vista.
Yes,
yes, thank you.
I made the motion on the minutes.
Yeah, of course, thank you. Missed that. County of San Diego.
Yes, this is Zubir, and I approve of this meeting.
The meeting or the minutes?
The minutes. I made it sound like a political commercial.
Yeah. All right. Please, if I missed anyone, I'm between two monitors here trying to keep up with everyone. Is anyone here voting members that I've missed?
I didn't hear.
This is Mike James.
Mike. Thank you, Mike.
And Mr. Raj Taltrans.
Who was that?
Did you mention Carlsbad?
I did not. But who was that? Was that Raj from Caltrans?
Yes. And
Okay.
approve the minutes.
Okay, I'll take yours over Melina's vote since she wasn't actually here. But
Thanks,
she's attending
Allison.
but you're attending today. So I have Caltrans and Lemon Grove. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none. We have mainly everyone except for actually we'll take the yes from Oceanside. So we have approval of minutes, Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you, Allison. Okay, so item number 3, public comments. I understand. I know.
Mike Kenny.
We have one. Yeah. Matt Kenny has something to address the committee. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, good morning. It's Mike Kenny with McCain. Just two brief items. I'd like to introduce Dave Reinhardt to the group. Dave is a longtime McCain employee who ventured over to the city of Oceanside, but has come back. His title will be the local area service rep. So he will be the individual reaching out to all of you to answer questions related to McCain products. We're really excited to have him back. He's a very knowledgeable individual. I don't know if this is possible, but through the magic of the internet, if Dave is there and he has the opportunity to say a few words, could you make that happen, Ellison?
Yeah, it looks like he's got me unmuted. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
But thank you, Mike. Thank you for introducing me. Welcome, everyone. It's I can honestly say it's really good and very nice to be back at McCain. I look forward to working with all of you again in the near future. If there's anything I can do to help out or support any of your products, please reach out and let me know.
All right, Dave. Right. The other issue that McCain wanted to bring before the group is we're going to be restarting the Transparity users group. I guess in the past it had been the QuickNet users group, but we're going to go ahead and fire it up as the Transparity users group. We'll include Omni in that if there's any interest from the group in addressing some of the Omni and Transparity, say, new features. We can do that if the group's interested. It will most likely be remote until somebody tells us different. We're happy to do training on premise, but our interaction recently with most clients has been remote. So to that effect, we used to do a 4-hour training, invite a bunch of people in, and we can continue to do that, or we could do 1 hour with every agency and deal directly with your Transparity version and what challenges you might have. So we're anxious to get a little bit of feedback on that. The scheduling, we would think maybe once a month, unless someone's interested in more training than that, and we're open to that. Conveniently after this meeting or after the ITE meeting would work, but we're going to reach out to you all individually. So please make a note of that we're going to start up a Transparity users group and pick the people in your shop who you might think would benefit from it the most and make sure they're available. We'll do some training for users at the terminal, and we'll do some training in the field with our field personnel for any Omni questions you might have as well. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, that should be beneficial to our members. And
Vice Chair. Vice Chair, hold on. We've got one more from Ralph Boaz has his hand raised. I'm unmuting him. Go ahead, Ralph. Interesting. I'm sorry, Ralph. I'm trying to unmute you. It's not happening here.
Am I unmuted now?
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Here now.
You unmuted me, but I didn't do myself. So.
Okay.
Just want to let you know let you all know what's going on a little bit on a national level. The Advanced Transportation Controller standard version V06A. It has been approved by AASHTO, NEMA, and ITE. That was approved July 29th. I have to do some little bit of technical editing to the standard, and it should be out on the ITE website by next month sometime. And the same goes for the application programming interface that runs on the ATC controller that allows multiple applications to run simultaneously on a single controller. And that standard was approved at the same time, July 29th. And again, that will be on the ITE website next month. And then the Advanced Transportation Controller Cabinet, ATC Cabinet, was approved in 2019. I think there's a few installations of it in the city, if I'm not mistaken about that. But that was approved last year, and the use of that cabinet is growing around the country. I'm currently working on a few projects that may be of interest. One is we're putting in, we're actually describing what to do about our center to field communications to the traffic control systems, which around the country are mostly using NTCIP communications. And we're looking to put security into the protocol. Currently, any security that's been put on center to field communications or center to center communications has been something that is like, basically a shell around it, like a TLS and other things that are used to protect it, but the protocol itself wasn't protected. Well, that's what we're trying to do here. The other thing is that I'm currently on 2 projects, one for roadside unit. That's the device that will transmit the traffic, infrastructure states of the signal systems and to vehicles and receive safety messages and things from the vehicles to the intersection. And so that's a device that we'll eventually be putting in all of our, installing in all of our intersections. And that standard's moving along quickly. And the other one is the connected intersections. And this one's an important project because it fills the gaps between these various devices where we didn't think of things. So in addition to the standards for the devices themselves, we'll have this guidance for IOOs, for infrastructure owner operators, to make sure that these areas have been addressed, so that we don't have ambiguities as cars travel from city to city. And the last thing is the US DOT has asked for a project plan, which I'm part of, preparing for cybersecurity for our infrastructure field equipment. So right now, usually there's a traffic control program and it might have passwords on it, but we're looking at the whole cabinet system on what things we need to do. Obviously on the outside would be having something other than a number 2 key for the cabinets. And then, but on the inside, having maybe password protections for settings inside, for settings inside the cabinet, such as for the controller or the various applications running on the controller, and possibly the conflict monitor. But we're taking a look at the whole cabinet system as a whole. So I just wanted to give you some of the things, the directions that are going on outside that we want to keep an eye on. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Rolf. I have an announcement to make myself. Yesterday, I participated in what do you call it, a small focus group meeting conducted by SANDAG. And among our members, Mario and Zubir was also present. Basically, SANDAG is looking into at the CTAC and SANTAC, at the roles and functions and how these two working groups can better assist SANDAG in future developing the 5 big moves, specifically the Next OS and the TSMO. And we provided input to SANDAG staff on what has been working and not working with the two groups over the year and all of the last probably 10, 20 years. And the staff would take the input from this focus group and develop a plan for working with CTAC and SANTAC in the coming month to start discussing what we want the future of these working groups to look like. And I understand some of SANTAC members have expressed their thoughts and opinions about the role of SANTAC. So I guess this is the right time to reflect upon our group and to make sure that our local needs being met for this working group, and also balance that with the regional needs of SANDAG. We'll have the joint meeting, I think later in October. So we'll have we'll have SANDAG staff to put this on the agenda to discuss in November or December. So basically, you'll hear more in the coming month. And that's it. And if you have any questions. Okay. Here now, we'll proceed to item number 4. This is a report on the Comprehensive Corridor Management Program overview by Richard Chavez of SANDAG. Richard?
Hi, Minji, thank you. And SANTAC members, nice to be with you this morning. Thanks for having me. So we've been working on updating our corridor plans around the region, and the latest version, I mean, these take on different names, it seems, every 4 or 5 years, but the new version is Comprehensive Multimodal Corridor Plans. Much of this, the guidelines for these are laid out by the California Transportation Commission and revolve around SB1 funding. But these are corridor plans that we've been developing and have developed over many years at SANDAG, working with our partners, the cities, Caltrans, the transit districts. But this is the latest version, and give you an update on where we're at with what we call the CMCP program, or just the corridor plans. Next slide, please. So what is a CMCP? It's an integrated multimodal approach to transportation corridor planning. A lot of focus on providing a balanced transportation system. The main purpose of these corridor plans is to inform the decision-making process, especially as it relates to funding decisions. And how we do that is by establishing consensus on what the priority transportation projects are in corridors, and having consensus on what those priority solutions are makes the region, makes those individual communities much more competitive for any local, state, and federal funding opportunities. If we're talking about going after another sales tax, local sales tax at some point, having consensus on what the priority transportation solutions are, that's very powerful for getting votes. Next slide, please. So our historical process shown in the top half of the slide here, we typically spend a couple years developing corridor plans. Those inform the update of the regional transportation plan, which is required for both state and federal funding. And then the projects that rise to the top move into the CEQA NEPA environmental clearance process. But we're kind of at an interesting point in history right now where we're doing all three at the same time. We pretty much reset the clock on what the regional transportation plan is. SANDAG staff rolled out the new transportation vision a couple weeks ago, but it's pretty much a new vision for the whole region in regards to long-range transportation plan. And so because of that, we're kind of at this point right now where we're doing quarter plans. At the same time, we're updating the regional plan. At the same time, we're doing individual CEQA NEPA clearance for individual projects. So a lot going on right now. A lot of coordination is required. Next slide, please. Thanks, Allison. So we're currently working on 5 corridor plans. The SANDAG Board of Directors allocated $40 million last year for the update of 12 corridor plans throughout the region. Phase 1 of that program is to complete 5 of those. Shown here in the exhibit, South Bay to Sorrento corridor shown in purple, Central Mobility Hub and connections shown in yellow, the Sea to Santee corridor shown in green, the North County corridor shown in blue, and the San Vicente corridor, which Melina joined us today. Thanks, Melina, for being with us. Melina is the project manager for the San Vicente corridor shown in red, or the State Route 67 corridor. Next slide, please. So these are the 7 corridor plans that will be updated in the second half of the program. The $40 million the SANDAG Board of Directors allocated toward this program last year. 5 of those are being completed in the first half of the program, the 5-year program. These other 7 will be completed in the second half of the program. The North Coast corridor covering I-5 North, Interstate 8 corridor, looking at high-speed transit in all of these corridors, Interstate 15, State Route 56, State Route 94, the 125 corridor, and the airport-to-airport corridor. Is it possible to get a high-speed connection between Rodriguez Field and Tijuana and San Diego International Airport, creating better connectivity between those 2 airports? We've got the busiest single runway airport in the nation. Can we create a better connection with Rodriguez Field to expand our air travel, air cargo capabilities in this region? Next slide, please. Excuse me. So there are a number of policies that feed into the corridor planning process, starting with federal objectives. Of course, we've got the state goals and objectives, the 5 big moves that we're developing here at the regional level, as well as local policies, a special general plan land use policies established at the local level. Those feed into the corridor planning process, and what comes out is typically transportation solutions in these 5 corridor, or these 5 categories: technology improvements, highway improvements, transit improvements, local streets and roads, and active transportation improvements. Next slide, please. So we've been using this slide a lot. You may have seen this before, but the multimodal corridor planning process is all about creating complete corridors, kind of starting at the left and working to the right on this slide. starting with freight movement on our freeway corridors, next generation bus rapid transit, private vehicle, and especially implementation of technology in our private vehicle category and freeway corridors, our rail corridors, and then local access through pedestrian and bicycle movement, micromobility, and shuttle, new shuttle technology on the local streets and roads component. Next slide, please. So kind of where we've been and where we're going. Last fall of 2019, again, the board allocated $40 million for a 5-year program to complete 12 CMCPs. We're trying to get 5 of those done in the first 2 years of the program. Spring of 2020, we developed multi-agency, multidisciplinary teams to develop these corridor plans. I think a number of you are on those corridor teams helping to develop this transportation solutions in each corridor. We've been to Transportation Committee at SANDAG a number of times going over goals and policies, what we call the policy considerations that are consistent to the program. This summer, really getting into the details on the geographical areas that will be covered by the corridor plans. We've also been discussing what we call the issues and opportunity statements for each of these corridors. Those appear in your agenda package. We would very much like to have your comments on those issues and opportunity statements. Beginning this fall, we'll start the community outreach process. We'll be doing that virtually. Continue discussions with the Transportation Committee on the initial analysis and efficiency identification. The North County Corridor did go to Transportation Committee a couple weeks ago here. So we're starting that process with our Transportation Committee here at SANDAG. Moving into spring next year, we'll be discussing the results of the community outreach and stakeholder engagement, getting into the detailed analysis on each of the corridors, moving into the draft and final plans by fall of 2021, fall of next year. Next slide, please. So these are the 12 policy considerations. I'm not going to go through each and every one of these, but we've got a team that's developing the performance metrics that revolve around these 12 policy considerations. A lot of focus this time around on the social equity component, how we look at these policy considerations through a social equity lens, as well as quality of life lens, which we've typically done in the past. How do you boil down these policy considerations and, you know, the 30-some performance metrics that go into these? How do you boil all that down to the social equity analysis and quality of life considerations for each of the corridors? Next slide. And this is my last slide, just kind of general schedule. Spent a lot of time developing the work plans for these corridor plans earlier this year, getting into the data analysis this summer, the community outreach, stakeholder engagement component, which is very important, and then into the draft and final plans summer and fall of next year. And that concludes my presentation. Be happy to take your comments or try to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions?
I'm indeed. Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I have more of a comment. If you can ask Allison to show the first, slide of the presentation, I have a comment on it. The first one. Right. See here, and no, back to the first one. Yes, here, stay here. So, Richard, I know. So, representing the county, when I look at this picture here and the comprehensive multimodal corridors, it really is talking about urban setting. There's nothing, almost nothing in here that makes the county part of this long-term plan. And I know, I mean, I was just in a class called, what is it called? Unbiased, whatever it was. But the question I have is here, so when we put these here, we really are talking about urban settings. I don't see anything that we in the county and some of the cities deal with from a rural setting that is here, and I always bring the issue of, we deal with the issue of the equestrian all the time. So this one doesn't show it. So it becomes very, not very, it's almost like you're isolated. You're not really part of the group than anything else. And I know we are, but it just, the image doesn't show it. So I would ask or plead to you guys, if you could, think about it sometimes more when you put these pictures, these schematics, these things that the metropolitan area of the San Diego is also composed of a lot of urban, most of it, but there is rurals that we have to deal with one way or another. So that's my comment.
Yeah, thanks, Sabir. That's a good point. And Ellison, if you go to slide 5, I think it is the map of the corridor plans. Maybe it's 4. Yeah, slide 4. Yeah, and since we have Melina, maybe put Melina on the spot a little bit. I'll start off, and maybe Melina can pick up. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the exhibit is very urban in nature, but a lot of these corridor plans, at least the San Vicente corridor, in this case, a little bit of the North County corridor plan, and they are working on the limits of that North County corridor plan, and I believe it is extending a little bit to the east. But the San Vicente corridor has, quite a rural focus, and that's probably one of the toughest corridor plans that we're working on, because there's a lot of controversy about, the big question whether or not to widen State Route 67, and that's predominantly a rural issue, and a lot of environmental considerations, rural community considerations for the community of Ramona. So yeah, I hear what you're saying, and some of these exhibits are very urban centric, but the corridor planning process does have a lot of rural issues that are going to be considered in that process.
Yeah.
Melina, maybe you could talk a little bit about where you're at with the 67, the San Vicente corridor, and some of the rural issues that you're dealing with there.
Sure. And Zubir is part of our stakeholder group, so we meet with our stakeholders regularly. And yes, we are very aware of the rural nature of the corridor, and we are looking at equestrian trails, tribal lands, the rural community characteristics of 67. We are engaging the local planning groups in the area. And you're right, Richard, there are a lot of unique challenges with the 67 compared to the other corridors that we're studying right now.
Ellison, may I ask a question?
At the conclusion, we'll take public comment if that's Ralph speaking.
And Ellison?
I had a question from Richard. If can I ask a quick question, Ellison? This is
Oh, yes, sorry. I thought that was Ralph. Sorry, Ralph.
Can I ask a quick question? Richard, sure. Hi, this is Hamid. Nice seeing you, buddy, after a long time. Was there any reason that 76 was not looked at?
So 76 is actually being included in that geographical area, at least the western part of State Route 76. So this exhibit is being updated through more recent work that Caltrans is doing. The western part of Route 76 is being included predominantly because of the access to and from Camp Pendleton being an important access point within North County transportation network. But the eastern part of State Route 76 is not being included in that North County study.
Okay, so let me, just for purpose of clarification, the slide I'm looking at now, which has the light blue geographic area shown, that will be modified to include at least the westerly portion of 76. And then what do you mean by westerly portion? From where to where? From where to I-5?
I believe it's from Santa Fe. Is it North Santa Fe Avenue? Yeah. It intersects 76. I believe from that point to the west is the portion of 76 that's being included.
So the CMCP map will be modified to show that portion of 76 as well, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks so much.
Welcome. Thank you. Yeah, nice hearing from you.
Hey, Minji, this is Zubir again. Hey, Richard. I want to congratulate Sandag for this map. And I am involved in the 67, but you see it's red. And to me, it shows the safety and the challenges with it. Just the color, by looking at it, it kind of like, yeah, it looks like, so I guess that's really what I'm getting at, is that this initial images, when we show them to the audience, that the first image always sticks in the mind of the receiver or who gets it. And that's really was my point. It's not, no, I honestly do believe a lot of what you guys do is the long-term looking at the betterness of the transportation in the community and in the San Diego region. And I congratulate you for that. It just sometimes there's these little nuisances that we need to tweak here and there to make sure that we're projecting the image we want to project. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Sam.
For Richard, I'm sorry if I missed it. As far as actual implementation, project implementation, is there any schedule, or is that going to be programmed through the kind of more like the RTP, RTIP process? How is that kind of going to materialize?
So we need to get these initial 5 quarter plans done by the end of next calendar year as a requirement to be eligible to compete for state funding, Senate Bill 1 funding in spring of 22. You have to have a completed quarter plan, completed CMCP. So that's the importance of getting these initial 5 done by the end of next calendar year, so we can be competitive for that program. It's not just the state funding. Whenever we chase federal dollars, go after local sales tax measures, we've got to have relative consensus on what the priority projects are to even have a chance of that. So yes, we need these done for state funding opportunity reasons, but it's a bigger effort as well for both federal and local opportunities as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Richard. That was good discussion. Just one thing to remind you that if you want to speak, you can also raise your hand. There's a functionality there on this app. I'm learning how to use that myself too, so please feel free to use that as well. So we'll go to the next
Vice
item.
Chair, excuse me, Vice
Yes.
Chair.
Yes.
I want to make sure that I'm over on the attendees panel, making sure that our members of our public are having an opportunity to do that, to raise their hand or to speak. So 1 second. I am not seeing any raised hands
Yeah, I
from the
looked at that
public.
list already. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank
I was
you.
monitoring that list.
Okay.
Thanks, Allison.
Sure. So
Okay.
no public comment.
Okay. Item number 5. Sorry. Yeah, it was not number 5. Correct. Regional Transportation System Management and Operations. That's what I think what I mentioned earlier. TSMO. Alex.
Yeah, before I turn it over to Alyssa, I guess are we going to bring this slide up and then just provide some opening remarks? You just heard from Richard on the CNC process or programs, and if you recall one of the slides that kind of walked through, what in terms of there's specific sort of state requirements, regional requirements on if you were looking at your screen coming from the left-hand side, then to the right-hand side to come up to specific strategies. And one of those strategies was technology, right? And there was capital, and then there was transit and so forth. So what we're carrying forward into this project is, as you proceed with identifying, a lot of these strategies, there's underlying elements or action elements or plans that need to be developed to carry forward a lot of these components. And you can leave it there, Alyssa, or whoever's driving, just leave it there for a second. But the idea here is that in order to move with a lot of these strategies, there's some underlying activities that need to happen and occur. So because we could, like the traditional capital improvement program projects, or when we go through the project development process, we necessarily don't jump into the actual building and design of those components, right? There's PSRs that are developed, there's technical studies that are developed, and then you have the environmental document. But within the technology component, there's the underlying elements that need to occur or happen in a dialogue, and particularly because technology by nature speaks to technology. So it speaks to how do you operate that technology, how do you use that technology. But because the CMCPs or these larger efforts are multimodal in nature, so it requires some level of discussion, meaning it requires some level of discussion across agencies in terms of if we were to use this technology, what is the benefit for us, and how do we move forward with kind of planning and then designing and implementing them. So what you're going to be hearing today, it's a little bit about that process. And Alyssa's going to start with what we're calling our TISMO plan that really speaks to a very high level. There's 2 points of this presentation. At a very high level, how do we get in that dialogue? How do we use those technology components? Because it's not necessarily just about implementing a new camera, a new controller, a new system or signal system. It's how do we use that? How do we actually use that system for the benefit of the user? Remember, the user doesn't really care whether they're traveling from an arterial, then to a freeway, then to another arterial. To them, it's transparent. So how do we work together? How do we come up with these and carry this dialogue together so all these systems could work together eventually? And then we're also going to be talking about one of the initial activities within this technology planning process that we want to start with all of you. And one of the activities is developing a smart intersection concept of operations. So that's something more relatable. That's actually an actual a plan in this process of technology planning, but guided by these high-level TISMO sort of discussions that need to happen. You're going to be hearing a lot from us over the next months because we envision coming back to this team over the process of development of the system ConOps, but also kind of an update on where we're going with the TISMO. With that, I'll just turn it over to Alyssa, who's part of our consultant team that's helping us on this effort. And she's going to introduce the concepts today and provide some insight. But again, we're going to be coming back to you with a number of activities. Alyssa?
Great. Thank you, Alex. And I agree with, echo what Alex was saying, that it's quite fortuitous that we were able to present the TISMO plan at the same time as the CMCP, because there's really a lot of synergy between what's happening in the region right now. Just to take a couple steps back before I go into what our deliverables are, I just want to touch again on what Transportation Systems Management and Operations is. TISMO is the acronym that we use. And this is, in some cases, this might be a new way of looking at things. This is not a traditional way where we look at project delivery, where we're looking at putting in pavement and where our deliverables are just the project itself. And once we deliver the project, we move on. This is really looking at a coordinated approach, an end-to-end, how the user experiences the transportation network, whether that is people on horses or a personal vehicle or a bus rider, what their experience is and how we can improve the transportation network as a result of looking at what the needs are specifically. In addition to being multimodal and customer focused, there really is a focus or an emphasis on active operations and using performance measures to understand where we need to make investments in the transportation network. Now, I understand active operations means different things to different people. Not everyone has access to a 24/7 TMC where you can sit there and just monitor your cameras to see how your street network is performing or look at your traffic signals. When I think of active operations, I really think more of a strategic operations. And an example I use is right now I'm working from my house, but I'm also a mother who's homeschooling 2 children. Right now I'm with you today and I'm talking about TISMO. I am not homeschooling my kids right now. That's another job I have. But they know that if there's a problem and they can't get on a link, they come tell me and I go and I do my homeschooling part of my job. So that's kind of the alert when they come tell me they can't get on their meeting. is what I think of active operations. You might be looking at a plan set and doing a plan check comments, or dealing with a customer at a counter, but then you get that alert, the kid comes knocking on your door, and you realize, oh, something is going on that's different from what it used to be. Let me go put my energy into the thing that's requiring it most right now. And that's really what I think of as active operations. It's not requiring you to use more of your time, just to use your time more efficiently based on performance metrics that tell you that something might be different, or maybe something needs more attention. It could be an incident. It could be just more congestion. It could be equestrian activities that are causing problems. That's really what I think of as active operations. And this concept of TISMO brings all of these things together in a coordinated approach. Now, many of you might be thinking, we've already done this before. This is not that different from how we're doing things. And in many cases, that's true. The region has a very strong foundation of TISMO to build upon, whether we're thinking of RAMS or the I-15 ICM, even more technologically forward applications like the Bus on Shoulder project on the 805, or just local TMCs coordinating with Caltrans on day-to-day operations. So there is a strong existing foundation in the region for TISMO, and we're using this plan to build upon that and take it to the next level. So how TISMO fits into this larger group, we heard that great conversation about the CMCP. That is certainly part of this, and we're coordinating on the CMC efforts. TISMO is thrown throughout the 5 big moves in the RTP. TISMO weaves throughout them. It's a common theme throughout all of the 5 big moves. In the future, in the next few months, we'll be looking at the regional ITS architecture as a specific technological framework. But when we talk about this TISMO plan that we're developing right now, it's really looking at the people, the processes, and the tools. And some of those tools might be technology. Many of them might be. But it's also looking at the people and the processes that we can do to make things more efficient and help you get your job done more efficiently. And that will include the next OS ConOps, as well as the Smart Intersection ConOps, which is what our focus is here today. Now, the Smart Intersection ConOps is part of the systems engineering process. And the systems engineering process is how we develop projects from a technology standpoint. It's similar, maybe a slightly more complex than what you're currently using for typical construction projects, which is shown on that top line. And that top line really shows the traditional kind of PAED process, where you do project planning, you scope it, you go through the PAED, you do the construction, and then you continue to operate the system. Now, when you're looking at technology, it's a little bit more complicated because technology changes so frequently. And if you think of maybe a typical construction project, the time you plan it, fund it, and implement it, it could be many, many years. Now, if we chose the technology at the beginning of that time, you're left with like an iPhone 2, and by the time you build it, it's an iPhone 15 or 20 or whatever the current thing is. So that's really why we want to look at the technology process a little bit differently. And it starts with the feasibility study and the needs assessment. We want to make sure the technology is needs-based. We're not throwing out cool things just to see what they do. We want to make sure that they're solving an actual problem. And part of the way we do that is developing a concept of operations. And the concept of operations tells how the technology will be used from multiple points of view. That could be from maintenance. It could be from the city traffic engineer. It could be from the bus rider or the equestrian or the transit rider or the transit agency itself. We're looking at each of their experiences operating the system and what it takes in different what we call user scenarios or use cases. And those include things like maintenance. What's going to happen under normal conditions? Just what happens when the system is running, and who do you talk to and who do you collaborate with and what needs to be done? And then you can look at a major incident, and that might require more coordination. That might require more technology. For instance, you might be talking about detection. But the concept of operations is a technology neutral plan. We're not specifically talking about a type of camera or a type of controller. We're just saying that you need to be able to check that there's an incident happening or detect that a bicycle is coming through the intersection at this point. Now, as we move further down the V, where we get to the system requirements, that's where we get a little bit more detailed about, what do we need to detect? How do we need to detect it? We're still not specifying a specific camera or detector, but we're more functionality here. What does the uptime have to be? And then we go through the design process. The design might be creating specifications for technology. It could be creating PS&E for signing and striping plans. It could also be creating standard operating procedures so that your coworkers know what they need to be doing if you're not there that day. The other big thing in systems engineering is the whole right side of the V, and that's the testing process. We have to do the unit testing and the verification and validation to make sure the system is doing what we wanted it to do in the beginning, that it's really meeting the needs. Because at this point, we've selected our technology. We go back and look at what those needs are and make sure that it solved those. An example of using systems engineering or not using systems engineering in this case is recently I had a situation where I needed my kids to play outside, and they're hesitant to go outside these days, so I thought if I could buy them a remote control car, it would make them get outside. It's a new fun toy, and they would get outside and I could have half an hour to myself to be on a phone call. Well, I did not use the systems engineering process to utilize this technology. And the $70 I spent on these remote control cars was a huge waste of money because they work for 10 minutes. The battery dies so quickly, it doesn't give me enough time to get my phone call done. They have one specific charger that's the only one in the house, and it gets confused with everything else. So my kids are constantly coming to me, where's that charger? Where's that charger? So if I had done the systems engineering process and I looked at the concept of operations, my use case would be, I need something that the kids can do independently outside for a good chunk of time so I could get my work done. In the requirements, I would have said that needed to last at least 30 minutes or more, and that it would be something that was easy for a 6-year-old to use. Now, since I didn't do that, this is what we've ended up with. And I'm sure there are examples within this meeting right here of you buying technology because a vendor came to sell it to you, and then you realize it's not really doing what you need, and now you have to maintain something that didn't fit a need. And that's why we're really focusing on the systems engineering process. In order to do the systems engineering process, we really start with the needs assessment. As part of the TISMO plan, we've met with the North County stakeholders that are doing the CMCP. And what we're going to be doing with y'all in the next couple of months is really confirming the needs that we heard from them, understanding if you have additional needs, and using the needs that we've already collected and that we're going to be collecting from you to develop the concept of operations. Now, the concept of operations is specific to a smart intersection system. A smart intersection system might mean different things to different people, and that's okay. I want to make sure that, the things that we're looking at is smart intersections in terms of safety and operations and performance measures. I'd like to open it up here today, if that's okay with you, Allison or Angie, about what people think of a smart intersection and exactly what that means to them. I have some examples that we might have brainstormed on the slide here, but I'm curious, when you think of how you can operate your intersection safer, is something like a pedestrian bicycle detection zone, is that something that you would utilize? Or do you have other examples of what you think of as a smart intersection? I can't see hands are raised.
Okay, anybody? Benny.
Hey, Minji, this is Zubair. Alyssa, is this picture from England? Are they driving on the left side?
Oh, goodness, yeah. They certainly look like they are.
So the signal is off and it becomes an always stop, and the always stop is off and the signal becomes operational. Oh, interesting. Thank you.
Is that something that you're looking at for your intersection?
Well, I'm with the county. So we do the rural setting. So a lot of need of the people that lives in the county, which is the unincorporated area, are more from a rural basic. I mean, believe it or not, a lot of communities don't want sidewalks. They feel, but now you got the, I think that's probably maybe an older idea. The newer people that moved in, they want sidewalk because they feel the safety, or maybe they come from an urban setting. So we are kind of like a little bit of a transition, but there is a lot of roadway that just have that 24 feet of pavement, you know, and when it, a lot of people still don't buy into, let's say, the roundabout. You know, they don't, you know, it's not easy for them. I'm just talking about the community. If you ask me, I say, yeah, we should take every signals in the county and put it as a roundabout. Because from a maintenance, from an operation, from safety, everything is a positive. There's nothing here that is negative. So that's, you know, but that's, you know, so the county, when you guys present, you make sure you throw in that flavor of the rural setting of it. Whatever you
right,
know,
but in terms of a rural setting, certainly safety is a priority. Certainly,
correct.
if you have, you're all sharing the same 24 feet of pavement, and maybe the speeds are a little bit higher.
That's exactly.
In terms of a smart intersection in a rural setting, what is something that you would need to help increase safety for in the county?
Well, you brought the speed, so so it would be nice to have. I guess maybe a dynamic speed, depending on the day of the time, where the, you know, where it can be changed from I don't know, 45 to 35 or 25, whatever it is.
Right.
Through the intersections we have a very basic intersections. Few of them are signalized, all of them are just one-way side, and a lot of people, I mean, I don't know, they would say they are happy with the would leave me alone, and that's okay with me. So it's not that easy. I think roundabout, if you ask me as a professional working for the county, truly the roundabout is the ideal intersection for the rural setting than traffic signals. So that's, you know, I don't know, you know, maybe more time for me to think about it deeply to really give you more, but otherwise, no. I mean, I just opened my mouth because I saw this and it was weird that you show the stop legend on the left side. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Now, can I just make a comment, Chair, real briefly? Now, I appreciate your input, and maybe the larger comment here, Subir, and is obviously we're going to continue to bring this back to all of you, but maybe one way to look at this is look at it from a long-term perspective as well, because we got to make sure that we capture those, like whether it's a rural setting or landscape or urban setting, what those needs would be, but from a long-term perspective, recognizing that econops can be updated, but as long as we capture those up front, then as we proceed with that, you know, system engineering process, we can then determine at that point which ones are the ones that we want to implement, and that those will be more time set, funding set. But right now, it's kind of that vision.
Yeah, I agree.
Just think about that. Yeah, and just think about that. You don't have to provide, you know.
Okay.
But I think what Alyssa's trying to do is like, what are your sort of immediate reactions? But your immediate reaction to make sure that we capture a rural setting, that's within the context of safety. That's great for us.
Anything else? I thought I saw chat, Allison. Did we get that one?
Yeah, that was Ralph who had to leave. But I've, Vice Chair, I've hit the, for better or for worse, I've hit the unmute all button because I want to promote folks on all Santec members to, you know, unmute themselves and add to this open discussion that Alyssa and Alex have invited all of you to chime in on. So I've hit the unmute all button. So
do
please.
You want to go by hands raised, Allison?
We could. Yeah, she can unmute herself and speak. Chair, I'm just monitoring the panelists' view as well as the attendees. But if Maureen has something to say, please.
Well, I mean, if there's any of the Santec that wants to speak first.
You are Santec, Maureen.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for the presentation. This is really exciting. And my first thought with the figure as well is to maybe relook at that with a bunch of traffic engineers are going to have a concern with stop legends, with signals, and the standards in the middle of the street. But that's just a side note. So I love your question. And I think as local governments, our biggest concern is safety, reducing collisions. So any kind of functionality that would enable that, whether it's today or in the future, as connected, you know, vehicles become more and more, we've got more interaction between our infrastructure and our vehicles, and between vehicles between each other, to the extent that the smart intersection is kind of building that capacity toward mitigating collisions or collision severity. And then operations, whether it's monitoring, the ability for data collection, again, not just for the sake of collecting data, but to help improve operations and planning, and the ability to have sort of oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the word, but dynamic signal control, responsive, and
adaptive.
Thank you, thank you. So, and there's so many different, you know, types of systems for that, but the idea to be demand responsive, and whether that's for, you know, congestion that's occurring regularly, or, you know, that's not on a regular schedule. And yeah, I think just looking ahead to future systems and potential future ways to improve safety. Speed differential is one of the biggest things that creates safety problems, and to the extent that we can not just be monitoring that, but sometime in the future, maybe, you know, have some control over that. Again, that comes back to the safety functionality. And when I was saying that, I was meaning for all modes. So for pets, bikes, transit, and vehicles, both the safety and the operations. And that's all. Thanks.
That's great. I like how you said collect data to improve operations and planning, because, you know, I have focused a lot on operations, but certainly planning is a huge part of this, and understanding where we're going. As Alex says, we're looking forward. You know, as we develop this concept of operations, one of the things that we're doing is really setting up the region to get more funding. Honestly, the concept of operations with the smart intersection is another tool in your toolbox that you can take to get funding, and say, we've already collaboratively decided this is what we're doing, this is where we're going as a strategy, and that obviously gets you a leg up on funding. So I think that's an important part, the planning part of it as well. Anything else?
Lisa, this is Hamid. Alyssa, may I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Alyssa, this is Hamid Bahadari, Oceanside. Thank you. I mean, this is great, and I listened to your presentation the other day also on this. This is wonderful work, and very, very promising. On one note, I would like to support what Zubir said, that roundabouts, albeit difficult to implement, they really yield per dollar invested most safety benefits, and these are supported by national studies, Foundation for Traffic Safety and FHWA, but that's another issue. We have what we have on the ground. I've shared some of the comments in the other meeting with you. Following also connecting, since this you're trying to coordinate these larger regional studies with each other, as we discussed in the previous item on the CMCP, and as Richard said, that the northerly area, geographic area, will be expanded to include at least the westerly portion of 76, which is from North Santa Fe to 5. Will that make sense also? And then for another reason is that pretty much 76, 78, that box, that corridor, the whole east-west corridor pretty much works together. Will that make sense that also the area for study for your project be also expanded to include that only that westerly portion of 76 as well, to both make it compatible and consistent with what the CMCP is looking at, and also to make it a more meaningful smart corridor and a smart region study?
Sure. Yes, that is true. What we have been using the NCRC team as our case study, and we have already gotten your needs, and thank you so much for your input. It's been very valuable. We're also using the Santec to help verify and make sure we have a good group of those needs, as well as other, you know, we're going to be looking at freight and other, because we do want to make this smart intersection concept something that is applicable everywhere that doesn't have a specific geography. You know, we are looking at this as a while it's locally implemented, it's a regional concept of operations. So absolutely, the 76, 78 box, as you call it, is certainly part of that implementation.
So will that make sense? Will that make sense for the, as a follow-up question or suggestion more? I would say, will that make sense then that the study area for this project be inclusive of the westerly portion of 76 as well, for the reasons of consistency with CMCP and also to make the whole study more beneficial?
I mean, are you asking when you say the study area of this ConOps or the State Route 78 CMCP?
The State Route, the regional of the State Route 78 that we're looking at.
No, I think it was confirmed, yes, for purpose of consistency. And I think maybe just to break down where we're coming in with the ConOps is maybe we might just need to confirm what are the needs within that study area that you're suggesting in that 76. But what we're hearing right now is that there's this urban environment, right? So if it speaks more to an urban environment, definitely we need to get together and figure out, okay, as we proceed with these, you know, with future presentations, we got to make sure that we capture that. What is that landscape? Because then that'll allow us to kind of determine, hey, what are those needs within that sort of that piece of that study area? I mean,
I hear you too. So you think it's more appropriate to have the CMCP include 76 westerly from Santa Fe to I-5, and this focus more on like technology and
yeah, it's the focus on technology. No, exactly, because the technology side, once we have that, then
thank you for clarification.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have another.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay, thanks. I just didn't want to, I guess speak too much or give a chance to others. But I think one thing I should have thought about it because it's always in my mind, and as I live in an urban setting, is that basically I think 99.9% of our intersection are basically static intersection, meaning you have a dual left, you have a 3-throughs, and you have a right turn, whatever it is. We really need to get back to make use of the dynamic lane changes not only per hour of day, but also per users, because some intersection may at certain time of day. For example, I mean, I don't know, let's take high school. At 2 o'clock, there is a lot of kids that walks. The intersection will have the ITS, through the ITS, the ability to change itself to accommodate the pedestrian more. At 5 o'clock, it will have the ability to change to convert, say, the through lane that was before into a left turn lane and accommodate more of the traffic. So the dynamic using ITS, I think it really is important to make use of our existing, finite resources. And I have an example here, that I live next to my house is, where it really is extremely high demand during the PM peak hours for a left turn movement. And the through movement is light. So I go, why can't they change one of the 2 lanes in the through movement into a left turn lane? And I know the approach has accepted it, or when you turn, the throat of it will accept 2 lanes. It's always that way. But it's just 1 lane, and you got that backup goes for miles and miles. So I think this smart intersection should have the ability to change during the day based on the demand, whether vehicular or pedestrian or other users, using the technology or the ITS technology. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, I think for the sake of time, we need to move forward with the presentation.
Okay, I just have a little bit more. Thank you so much for your input. This is really where we're focusing right now, is the concept of operations and defining what those needs and the goals and objectives are. And what we heard today is make sure we consider the rural user, as well as looking at technology that can help with the performance monitoring as well. So we're going to be back here a couple times. We're also going to be developing operational scenarios As I mentioned, these are examples of them. We're looking at the normal operation to the evacuation, construction. What happens if you know that construction is happening on your streets, or if your power goes out or your communication goes out? What happens in those cases? And we'll be coming back to you to share thoughts and ideas and make sure that we have all the scenarios that you typically develop. I don't think last year I would have thought of a global pandemic with wildfires and murder hornets and all of the other things were happening. So we want to make sure that we have all the scenarios that we could consider. We will be coming back to you in the next several meetings to, again, focus more on that operational environment, what is currently happening and what could be happening in terms of operations, making sure that we understand all the needs and develop a vision and the goals. As we look at the later half of the fall, we'll be coming with the operational scenarios in the TSMO plan. And in December, we'll have a draft concept of operations for you to provide feedback on. And really, then by that time, we'll be, the CMCPs will be up and running, and we'll have some coordination with that other regional concepts as well as the RTP. So if anyone has any further questions, that's the end of this presentation.
Okay, thank you, Alyssa, and also thank you to Alex as well. Yeah, I don't see any hands raised, and
Hey, Minji, I do.
okay, go ahead. Please speak, Rick. Thank you.
Thank you. Alyssa, on the representing the county, I think the evacuation is very important to us.
Yep, absolutely.
So, and I've been thinking about that, and I like to see this plan address the possibility of converting a 2-lane highway into a 3-lane highway through the use of ITS. So for example, if
for
we
evacuation
have,
purposes?
Yeah, yes, for evacuation purposes only. Say you have a 2-lane, and then you have a bike lane on both sides. That striping during evacuation through the ITS changes, say, to a 3-lane roadway. So you have a 2-lane that takes people out of the place where they have to evacuate it, but you always have 1 lane left over for the emergency vehicles to go back and do whatever they need to do. So I think this is really, in my mind, important without really widening roadways and, adding a lot of concrete into the pavement, but the use of ITS can help us, achieve that goal.
Some contract Lillian, great. That's
and just one final comment, Vice Chair, real quick. So this is, you're raising a great point, Subir, because Kimley Horn is also helping us work on the NextOS ConOps. So what you're hearing today is simply just kind of a snapshot of at the intersection level and maybe adjacent facilities level, but at the intersection level. We're also going to be developing the NextOS ConOps and Subir. So to the extent possible, we have to marry these 2 ConOps together, because at the intersection level or adjacent facilities, the NextOS ConOps speaks to, okay, if we want to do and move beyond or extend this evacuation scenario, we also have to look at the network and what are the functionalities behind that network, behind kind of the way I like to consider the NextOS as the ICM on steroids.
Right.
So it's a great point, and we're going to be coming back to you all again with the NextOS. Is going to speak even to larger functionalities and user needs.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alex, and also thank you, Alyssa. I'm sure we'll see and hear more from you, too, in the next few months. Okay,
Vice Chair, we have no public comments on this item.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll move on to the next item. It's a roundtable on the effects of COVID-19 on local traffic patterns. I know we talked about this last time, and also was a big thing discussed at CTAC as well. So because of the time, we're running out of time now. So unless you have new information, I'll say maybe we'll put this until next time. Of course, if you have new information, do you think it'd be beneficial? You can share it with us as well. But do I see anybody raising your hands? Zubir, are you raising your hand?
No, yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't know what you wanted from us, because I have I have something that I could share with the group from a traffic engineering perspective during these COVID-19, traffic conditions. And it really it goes back to the issue that I brought last time about the speed. And the speed surveys, when I said, you still should be doing the speed survey because now you could get the true speed. And I just wanted to share that with the group, that in a community that it's shared between the county and city of Chula Vista, I did the speed survey and they did the speed survey during these days. And we are recommending, actually, I am going to recommend to the board to reduce the speed limit that is existing from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles. So the speed survey justify it. So what I'm getting, my point is that even though we are in a different times, there are things that we can still do and we still can move with. And in my mind, such as the speed surveys. So because I think some of the members said, no, we shouldn't be doing any speed survey during the COVID-19. So I just wanted to bring that to the table to the members to tell them it's not that scary. Thank you.
No, I agree with that. I think because speed survey is done at the free flowing condition anyway. So
yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Vice Chair, we'll leave this as a recurring item for the foreseeable future.
That's a good idea.
Other members will have time to share your ideas and opinions as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's move on,
we'll
please.
To next item, which is Caltrans update. I think we have a Robin on the line.
Yes, good morning. I hope you can see the screen I just posted. I was going to start off with that. That they did announce a virtual Resident Engineer Academy. So that's going to be October 5 through 9. So I know that's coming up. So all they're asking for is just the intent to attend. So if you have any possible interest of you or your colleagues, definitely consider getting that in now. I put a link in the chat box for the page that I have up here on the screen so that you can look at it. So it's just the very basic preliminary information. If hopefully most of you have already had the academy and you know about that program. The other item I was going to highlight from the notes that I sent out was the initial damage estimates are going to be due, well, and they're a little bit more flexible on emergency response deadlines. For the Valley wildfire, September 18th, that's currently the only federally or state declared disaster in this area, but stay posted, and it's always a good reminder because the process changes depending on different requirements. So, I mean, all areas of the county can be affected by emergencies. I mean, there's, coastal storm damage sometimes. So if nothing else, it's a good reminder of what that process would be if there was a disaster, even if this particular one did not affect your particular community. And just a quick update on the inactive projects. November 20th is the next deadline for inactive projects. And then I think the other big reminder is that the Highway Safety Improvement Program deadline was extended until October 19th. And I have the links there to make sure that gets on time. Also, if there are any allocation requests to the CTC, they provided an extension through their December meeting, which means that our district office would need any information regarding those extensions or allocation requests that are for that December meeting on October 5th. The other item of note too, I think I maybe sent this out even last month, but the active transportation program just closed. So, and they're expecting a lot of applications. So I included a link, the California Local Technical Assistance Program provided a link of a lot of other resources so that you can be looking at other possible sources of funding as well for those kinds of projects. And there are also a couple of new office bulletins from headquarters, local assistance regarding the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program that's they're attached at the end. Also, I think last month they included the office bulletin on at-risk preliminary engineering. But just as a recap, it allows preliminary engineering to proceed even before a federal authorization, as long as the project is programmed in the FTEP. And there's certain requirements for that which are detailed in the office bulletin. And that's all I had to share today. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. So next, excuse me, next item, CTAC meeting update. Mario, are you ready to do that?
Yeah, sure. Alex, if you're still around, if I miss anything, you maybe can chime in. So well, actually not last month, but this month at our meeting on September 3rd, a report was filed with on the comprehensive multimodal corridor plan, which Richard just made a presentation earlier, which is a great presentation. And there's another presentation on the Cal EVIP incentive program presented by Jeff Hoyos of Sandag. And it's an opportunity for local businesses and local government facilities to install electric vehicle chargers. It's a kind of a rebate program. And there's more information on that. They're going to have a webinar on October 6th. So look for, it's calevip.org, or just look up Sandag on their energy page. And there was Caltrans updates and announcements and a roundtable on the COVID-19. And that was about it.
Thank you, Mario. So next item is the matters from members. Any member has an issue or a question or things you want to share?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this is Hamid from Oceanside. Facing an issue I would like to share with you guys, and not necessarily hear right now from you, but any advice you can offer us or any sharing of how you handle this thing in your cities and county, we appreciate it. As you know, one of the more challenging things we do every now and then is looking at the posted speed limits, and there are times that we need to raise them, believe it or not, and folks are not happy. And now, one of the things is that, and I remember even from days serving on the county's traffic advisory committee, that when we were doing the speed limit assessment, we were looking at the 85th percentile and the rounding, and then the allowance for the 5 miles reduction based on conditions not readily apparent and all that. But I had never heard either in the county or any other jurisdiction that I've been working with that there was a check for a 50th percentile, that the posted speed limit shall not be below the 50th percentile. I had not seen that. Apparently, there is a traffic commissioner here in our courts up here who believes that there is also that requirement that the posted speed limit shall not be below 50th percentile. Obviously, we don't want to post below the 50th percentile. That's not good traffic engineering and traffic safety practice. But I did not know of any legal requirement that it cannot be and should not be. And apparently he's referring to a line in the famous People v. Goulet case, the case that was adjudicated at the appellate level, and that's why it's recorded and people refer to it. And I don't know if you, when you do your speed surveys, are you also required to make sure to go through that extra check to make sure that the posted speed limit is not below the 50th percentile, or is just something unique to this commissioner and this court? If you have any information, we really appreciate hearing from you. It can help us.
Minji, can I say something about that?
Zubir, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Hamid. At the county, I mean, you know, you were on the TAC before me, but now, I mean, I always, not always, but probably since I was with Poway, look at the 50th percentile as kind of like a threshold. But I did break that threshold in a few times, but that's a separate issue. But I do look at it because through my time, I learned that it really is, if you're setting the speed limit below the 50th percentile, basically you are breaking the basic speed law, you know, which is, you know, people are reasonable and drive at a reasonable speed, whatever they, you know, the 22/300, whatever that section of the California Vehicle Code. So I do use it as threshold, but we do not have it in any of our guidelines that says you shall not be below it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Zubir. That was my recollection also. That may be bad traffic engineering practice to post the speed limit below the 50th percentile, but it doesn't make it illegal. I didn't know of any legal requirement until I was told that this commissioner at least believes in that one line in a case that's like 20 years old. So
yeah.
Anyways, so are you not? Is anybody here who is doing the 50th percentile as a legal requirement check, or you're just checking for yourself? Well, I guess nobody is doing it as a check. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's what I thought. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
This is Dave. Encinitas. Yeah, I had raised my hand, but I guess it's not obvious there.
Yeah.
No worries. Yeah, similar case. I did bring it up last time. We did talk about it. I don't want to take the group's time again. Just that, if you recall, I asked a question about how you guys treat your traffic control plans, when and where you ask for sign and stamp plans, when and where you accept the, you know, the regional traffic control standards. And we had a meeting with our attorneys, and I did bring it up that if I remember correctly, the majority of you folks mentioned that you just basically like play by the ear, just depending on the project, case by case basis. If you feel that different traffic control plan is required, you'll ask for a sign and stamp design traffic control plan, or if it's just something that a copy paste of the regional standard is good enough and it does work, you won't really necessarily ask for a new plan with sign and stamp on it. But they did require me to create some sort of a table that shows how other cities in the county are doing it. Is it possible that I ask you guys to kindly shoot me? I mean, it doesn't need to be a long one, just a two-liner that, hey, Abe, this is how we do it, so that I can form that table that my attorneys asked for, not to have to bug you all separately. And you kindly just send me something, just tell me how you do it so that I can make that table for them. I appreciate it if you can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised. So I'm going to proceed to the next item, which is upcoming agenda items. So if you have any items, please send it either to Allison, the chair, Jim, or myself.
Vice Chair?
Somebody? Yes.
If I may, just real quick, we're past the top of the hour. Just with regard to our October meeting, we'll need to assess whether we're going to have that or not. I don't know if recall at the beginning of the meeting, you know, we're going to have a joint meeting, as Minji mentioned at the beginning, that was postponed from, I believe, September. We're going to actually have that. The date on that is October 29th from 1 to 4 p.m. We'll be sending out you know, an invitation for CTAC and SANTAC members. This is going to be a large working group meeting with all the working groups. I think in September it was just with all the transportation working groups, but this will be with all the working groups, I believe. So we're going to get one shot at this to help engage you all on our 2021 regional plan. And so that's going to be October 29th from 1 to 4 p.m. And again, I'll send something out, and I'll work with the chair and the vice chair if we want to continue to have our third Thursday meeting for October, or should we just cancel it in lieu of this joint meeting? So we'll feel that out depending on agenda items and any input that you might want to send our way regarding that. I'll take that as well. But we'll have that joint meeting on October 29th after our regularly scheduled October SANTEC meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Okay, that's all for our meeting today. So this meeting is adjourned. I'll see you all next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks to all the Sandex staff for supporting this meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Minji.
Thank you.